Cool. All right. Let's do it, guys. Let's do it. Well, I have just NQ pulled up right now. Just NQH pulled up here on the chart. So we're just going to focus on NQ first. After that, after we talk about NQ a little bit, we'll pull up ES as well. We'll talk about ES. But I want our sole focus right now to be on NQ. So what I want us to do is to start out on the weekly time frame here. Zooming out a little bit, just kind of see what we got going on, right? Now, obviously, these are the March contracts, so we don't have all of our data from here. If you wanted to see all the data, you could go to NQ1, and you can see all the data on NQ1. Right? The reason I chart out NQH is just because we're trading our H contract, so I like to keep my data very exact, right? I'm not saying that it's much different, but I like to keep it exact. So NQH here. But just looking on a weekly time frame, let's just zoom in a little bit to these charts here. And we can see, starting off the week, we had a little bit of a move up, right? Which now is starting to look like this was our almost a manipulation move going into the start of the week. Now, I had a bullish bias this week. Going into this week, I was pretty bullish, right? We were coming out of a weekly bullish for value gap. We had a lot of bullish sentiment in the market. From just a technical standpoint, felt pretty bullish, right? We looked pretty bullish for my analysis. And what I've seen so far is that, well, we saw it today. That's not the case. NQ, I think, dropped over 1% today. It dropped a lot, over 400 points, right? So pretty big sell-off today. But just looking at the weekly, right? The first thing that I want to focus on is this weekly busy, this weekly bullish for value gap, right? So we have this weekly bullish for value gap right here. We're going to put weekly busy. And what we've seen so far is we haven't been able to break through. And that was one reason on a technical standpoint that I was also bullish, right? We had a few weeks where we tried to really push through that weekly busy, and we really failed to do so. We really could not push through that level. Both times we tried to push through, we came back and we closed above consequent encroachment, right? So that was another reason why I saw us testing that so much. And I saw this act, really holding. This weekly busy really was holding us up, and we were looking pretty bullish. But again, now we see in the market after today a very strong drop, right? Very strong drop. So what it's looking like here is that we're trying to fight through. Now we're trying to fight through this weekly busy here. Really push through it. Looks like we really want to push through. And what do we have, right? We have some weekly sell side liquidity. We have some weekly sell side lows down here. Why is laptop just started to move slower out of nowhere? I don't know why. I think it's because of Spotify. I think I'm going to close out Spotify real quick, guys. I think it's causing my my computer to slow down. It's crazy to me. You spend a bunch of money. You spend a bunch of money on something, and it still will act up over the slightest little inconvenience. Crazy to me. That's why I don't like spending money. That's why I don't like spending money. You spend a bunch of money on something, and somehow it still doesn't even work. Anyways, quick rant real quick. Quick rant. Okay, so back to the charts. Sorry if it's a little bit choppy here, but I just closed out that application, so it should be good now. So on a weekly time frame, we have this weekly sell side liquidity down here. Boom. Weekly sell side low. Is it really choppy on your guys' end, or is that just on my end? Is it choppy on your guys' end? Seems fine. Okay, cool. Just want to make sure. As long as it's good on your guys' end, then we're good. As long as it's good on your end, then we're chilling. All right, cool. Just want to make sure. There's no issues on your guys' end. All right. Back to it. So, weekly sell side lows. Weekly sell side lows. I know we swept that previous week low back from December week of the 16th, and then we came back last week and we came down and swept that low and still closed above. But this is now a key sell side level. That price, if we're going to push through this weekly busy, that we will try to target, right? Now we have a lot of sell side liquidity resting below here. And it's right around 20,983.75 is where we see that weekly sell side low. So yeah, just looking at that weekly, right? We got to pay attention to this weekly busy. And we really got to see, are we truly trying to fight through? Are we truly trying to come down for this weekly buy side or a sell side liquidity down here? Or is it going to be another example of us trying to fight through, coming down to these lows and bouncing. And that's something we're going to be able to see as we go throughout the week, right? So let's drop it down to the daily time frame here. And now we can start to see a little bit more of the picture, right, as we do our top-down analysis here. So let's look at more of the picture. I'm going to get rid of that weekly because we know it's there. I'm just going to clear the charts a little bit. So daily time frame. I saw this daily SIBI up here, right? And this wasn't a level that I was super concerned about just because of our bullish sentiment going into this week. I wasn't very concerned about this level. I really thought we had enough strength and enough, momentum to the upside to really try to fight through that daily SIBI and try to fight up for this daily sell side, daily buy side liquidity up here. But another thing to note is that we have this big daily SIBI here as well, right? We weren't able to fight through that one. And another thing that we can look at is our Fibonacci retracement tool. So if we use our fib from this low, the weekly low down here, up to this buy side level, that swing high, what do we notice about this is we retraced all the way up and to our 0.79 on the fib, right around that 0.79, and right into the golden zone of this range, which is that 0.62 to 0.79. And look where we closed. We closed right below equilibrium there of that daily SIBI on both days, yesterday and today. And we don't close above those levels, and we get a strong reaction out of this zone, a strong reaction out of that golden zone that now looks like it really wants to start pushing us lower, right? So something to note, just looking at our previous ranges on the daily time frame here, very interesting to see that, right? Very interesting to see us trade right back into that level and see that bounce, or that rejection. So here, let's look at this previous week. Let's see if we did something similar over here. Swing low to swing high up here. Pretty similar, right? We traded into that golden zone there of this previous range, and then where do we see the drop? Boom, we drop down to sell side of that range. So now we're looking like we're creating something similar. We make a lower high here, and it looks like we want to come down and try to target that resting sell side liquidity on the weekly and the daily time frame, right? So what's something very key about seeing a continuation of this move lower? Well, it's the fact that we got a strong close below that previous day candle, yesterday's candle, right? We want to see a strong close below that level right there. What did we do? We got a very strong close below. So what does this now turn into? This now turns into a daily bearish order block, right? So if we were to come up and test this level, this is now a bearish order block where we are looking for some kind of reaction, or expecting some kind of reaction off of this level, right? So just looking at that daily. Okay, so right now we look bullish, right? Just starting off the day, starting off this daily candle, we're looking bullish. Now we're trying to recover some of this move from today, some of this huge sell-off. But where's our first touch point in terms of the daily time frame where we want to see some kind of reaction? Well, it's that wick, the bottom of that wick on the daily order block, right? We want to see us touch into that level, and that's where we expect our first reaction, at least on a daily time frame, right? And obviously we're going to have to drop it down to the 4 hour, the 1 hour, and look at some other time frames, but just looking purely at the daily, that's that first level that I would want to see if we're going to retrace up to here, and this level is at 21,478.25. This is that first level I'd want to see some kind of reaction off of, just by seeing this retracement right now. Okay, another thing we can always look at would be our previous day range, but I wouldn't expect us to cover 50% of this previous day range. I would expect tomorrow to see some kind of continuation, right? Now, this is all going to be factored into our news, and the fact that we have FOMC tomorrow, right? FOMC minutes, and what's our other news event tomorrow? I think we have, unemployment claims, right? So pre-market, we have some NFP data, we have unemployment claims, and then crude oil, and then we have FOMC meeting minutes, right? So this is all going to be, that's all fundamental stuff. So sometimes when you have your technical analysis levels, you think, well, price should move here because of this and this. Sometimes it doesn't do that because you see that fundamental factor kind of play its part, and we see something different than we expected, and that's just something we have to adjust to. But right now we're purely talking about technical analysis, right? So just looking at the daily, this would be our touch point where if we do retrace up to this level, 21,478.25, that's where we're kind of expecting some kind of reaction, right? So that's what I'm seeing on the daily time frame. And then what would our target be for sell side? It would be that weekly swing low I talked about, that previous week low right here at 983.75. that is where we would be expecting that rejection, or not rejection, but that move to come down for, right? That would be our weekly target right now. Our weekly target would be right here. Okay, let's go down. Well, let me first go back to the chat and see if you guys have any questions. Any questions right now for me, guys? And feel free to just ask the questions as I'm talking. That way, when I come back to the chat, I can just kind of look through and answer any of those questions you have. But if you have one right now, let me know. And if not, I'm going to head back to the charts and we're gonna continue with this analysis. Cool. Thank you for letting me know, Zertix. All right, let's get back to the charts then. So let's drop it down to the 4-hour time frame here. Okay, so what's something really interesting? The first thing that I notice about this is that daily order block is perfectly aligned with a 4-hour bearish imbalance, right? Almost perfectly. Almost perfectly. I like that. What does that show me? That shows me a little bit of confluence here, right? That this could really be a strong point of rejection, or a reaction point. So when I see higher time frame levels like this lining up, that just gives me a lot more confluence that this is a really good, first of all, a good target. If we are looking for a long position, a really good target for the longs, but also a good point where we're going to start looking for a reversal pattern on our lower time frames around this area. Okay, so if you wanted to chart out that 4-hour SIBI, you could chart it out. You don't have to necessarily chart it out, but at least be mindful of that level right there and be mindful of that fair value gap. So, I mean, we could, use this real quick and just see exactly what level that is. It looks like it's 21,474.75. Okay, so literally 4 points away, about 4 points away from that daily order block. So a really key level there. And we can see this 4-hour candle already looking very bullish. I would expect us to try to recover some of this move and try to trade up into that imbalance, and then into that daily order block. But also, if we're going to be moving higher, what we still want to do is use our fib here, or even the rectangle, the tool, to chart out a fair value gap and just look for where that 0.5 level is of that 4-hour. Because let's say, for instance, we do keep running through this imbalance. Well, that's our next touch point right there, would be, let's see what that is, 21,585, right? That would be the next touch point, because that is the equilibrium of this 4-hour imbalance. And the other thing you could do is go back to the daily, and you could even look at what is our touch point here. What's the 50% level of that previous day candle? That's all the way up here at, what is that, 21,685.75. So again, my expectation I would not expect us to reach all the way up there. I would more see us coming up to 50% of this fair value gap here on the 4-hour. But even then, I wouldn't want to see us move up that far. I would want to see us trade a little bit into this fair value gap, into this order block, and start seeing a good reaction off of that level. And then just looking to the left of the charts a little bit, if we can notice that we do have a little bit of a bullish breaker block here on the 4-hour, right? So a support level, low, high, lower, low, displacement of the highs there. So what do? We chart out that highest up close candle, and let's see where we're at there. Boom. Okay, right here. Okay, what's the first thing that I notice here, guys? The first thing I notice is, again, equilibrium. Equilibrium of this breaker block has not been mitigated yet. So that's something that we really want to see happen for a continuation lower. So as I go into tomorrow and trading in the morning, that's going to be one of the first things I'm looking for to see what happened overnight. Did we close below the equilibrium of this 4-hour bullish breaker, or do we keep respecting it, showing more bullish sentiment, right? So that's something to really pay attention to there. The fact that we did trade and go below that breaker, but still closed above that 50%, right? So that's a very key level. That's something that we're really going to see. We're going to want to see us push through overnight. I would like to see that happen around Asia or London, right, where we come down and we really do try to close below. Because besides that, if we look to the left of our charts, there's no bullish imbalances over here on the 4-hour time frame. There's not too much holding us, right? Maybe this 4-hour order block, there's not too much. So it's really this breaker block that we'd want to see price fight through. Once we can fight through that, then I would expect a strong continuation down to those lows that we've been talking about, right? To those previous week lows. Okay, so that's on the 4-hour. What I want us to do now is drop it to the 1-hour. So let's go to the 1-hour time frame here, and let's see what we have. Let's see what structure is looking like over here. So just zooming in super close, we did see an inversion of an hourly bearish fair value gap here. Strong continuation. with a lot of bullish candles ever since this afternoon, right? Pretty much since close, we've seen that pullback, and that is not a surprising thing, right? When you see such a strong sell-off on a day like today, to see after or post-market moves like this is not surprising. We want to pull back. We want to rebalance just a little bit of this market. And just looking further into the hourly, another thing we can look at is the fact that we have an hourly imbalance up here. So if price did want to fight through this 4-hour SIBI that we have above, that's another point of interest right there, would be the hourly SIBI. Okay, maybe we're going to try to move up for that level if we are really fighting through that 4-hour, right? So another, just another point of interest there. So let's just see what level that's at specifically. 21,573.25. Okay. Again, just on my analysis, I don't necessarily want to see us move up that high. Like I said, I want to see us trade into that 4-hour, into that daily order block, and see a strong reaction around this level here. And then what we can do is chart out this hourly swing low. So now we have an external target right here, external sell side target. That is not just our weekly swing low, right? Because what we need to find is there more external liquidity? If we look back at the 4-hour, there's not too much yet because we haven't formed this swing low. But once this 4-hour candle closes, then we will have a 4-hour swing low there. But it's easier to see here on the hourly. We have key liquidity here, right at 21,279.50, right? And then if we move even lower, we're going to see that we have all of these relative to equal lows down there on the hourly time frame as well, sitting at 21,207.50. Okay, so relative to equal lows there, very strong target for price to drop to. And besides that, we have a little bit of a swing low here. Not too worried about that swing low. Yeah, actually, we should still chart that out. Still external liquidity there. That's at 21,144. So a lot of external liquidity on the sell side that we could be targeting tomorrow, right? A lot of reward here that I really could see price try to run for. Okay, so that's on the hourly time frame. Besides that, we don't really have too many imbalances. We do have this 1-hour busy right here, 1-hour busy here just below all of this buy side. So expect this to be a possible point of interest here, right? Whenever you have an hourly or 4-hour imbalance right below a lot of sell side liquidity like that, it is a key level, right? So we do want to focus on that level right there. Just resting below all of those equal lows could definitely be a level that we bounce from if we trade into it. Okay, so we have the hourly busy. And then, yeah, just this hourly SIBI up here is something that we do want to pay attention to because technically it is a bearish unicorn, high, low, higher high displacement of the lows. Fair value gap here overlapping that down close candle. So it is technically a unicorn fair value gap, so it should act as a very strong resistance or touch point right there. So it's just something to keep in mind. But again, just structure-wise, we still look extremely bearish. Structure-wise, we're looking very bearish here, right? Strong sell-off, strong close below a lot of recent lows, and now we're getting the pullback, trying to rebalance a little bit. And then we would expect that continuation. My expectation would be seeing that continuation going into New York AM session to sell side. Okay, let's go down to the 15-minute. Let's see what kind of story we see on the 15-minute here. Well, actually, before I do that, let me just go back to the Discord real quick and just see. Okay, no questions. Really want to see this go lower. Yeah, I mean, it does look like that's what we want. It looks like NQ does really want to move lower. So, yeah, I mean, right now, that is my expectation going into tomorrow. But just looking at the 15-minute. Okay, so we zoom in a little bit, and we see this bullish structure here on this move. Okay, we form our swing low, swing high, higher low, higher high, higher low, higher high, right? So we're forming that bullish structure, bullish order flow. And we do have some buy-side liquidity, internal buy-side up here that we could be coming back for, right? We have this swing high here. And where does that line up perfectly with? Well, it lines up with that bearish order block on the daily and the 4-hour bearish for value gap there. And if price did want to move a little bit higher, well, then that's when we'd expect price to come up for these internal highs up here, 15-minute swing high, another 15-minute swing high up here, right? And those would just be, the only way we'd be looking for those to be swept is if we really were, holding bullish structure for a long time and continuing this move and seeing a little bit of a breakout up here to try to trade up into that hourly bearish for value gap. And again, just seeing what you want to see on these moves on a strong trend is you want to see fair value gaps being created, 15-minute for value gap here, 15-minute for value gap here, because that's just showing strong order flow. And then if we look to the left, there's not too many imbalances. We fought through this 15-minute here, and then we do have this 15-minute up here, so something to pay attention to. 15-minute SIBI right here. But yeah, I mean, besides that, the only time, like when you want to actually start looking for the shorts on a move like this is once we get that close below recent lows, right? If we get a 15-minute bearish breaker block, if we get a 15-minute bearish unicorn, if we get a market structure shift, right? That's when we're starting to look for those shorts. So where would that key level be? Well, I'd be looking at the swing low right here. Okay, if we get a close below this level, that's when I'm really looking for that reversal to come fill that new day opening gap, and then to come back down for internal liquidity here on that 15-minute time frame. So that's kind of what we're looking for, right? And then you look for inversion, and you really want to wait for that market structure shift. So once you see that and you see a bearish breaker, that's when you can start to assume a little bit that you're going to start seeing that reversal, and that we're going to try to cover new day opening gap, and we're going to try to, start initiating that move a little bit, right? And I talk about this a lot when it comes to Asia session. Whenever we form our new day opening gap, we're going to see kind of usually a little bit of consolidation when we first start, and then going into that 9 p.m. Eastern time, usually is when we start to see some kind of reversal, or that's when you see the real move start happening during Asia session. So something to pay attention to is the 9 o'clock to 10 o'clock Eastern time, which we're in right now. That's when you really expect a big move to start happening. Right, so just wanted to throw that out there. So you'll either see that continuation of the move all the way up here, or you're going to start looking for the reversal to come back down and fill new day opening gap, right? So that's really as far as I want to go. Just kind of talking about going into tomorrow is that bearish bias, right? Strong bearish bias, seeing what happened yesterday, and there's still a few things we need to pay attention to, right? Even when you have a strong bias, even when you think we should be bearish no matter what, right? You have that strong mindset that you're very adamant about it. Well, you still have to look at a few other things. You got to look at what news is coming out. How did it come out? How did it impact our market? Did we see a really negative reaction or a really positive reaction to that news? And that's something we're going to have to do tomorrow. We're going to, when we wake up in the morning, we're going to see that news coming out pre-market. Okay, what kind of reaction does the market have? Is it bearish or is it bullish? Okay, that's the first thing we want to know. And then there's also something called weekly profile, which is something we want to pay attention to as well, where sometimes we're going to see Wednesday be a reversal day. But today or this week's weekly profile looks a lot different, where we see a Monday, Tuesday, or a Monday fake out, right? And then a Tuesday reversal. And usually when we see that, we see a Wednesday continuation. So that's kind of what my expectation would be going into tomorrow, would be that Wednesday continuation of a Tuesday move. Just looking at pure weekly profile, right? But again, just paying close attention to that news, to those fundamental factors. How is it affecting us? How is the market reacting? And how are we going to react to that news and to the way the market's moving, right? So that's what I have to say about that. Can you go over opening gaps a little deeper? Yes, of course. So every day you're going to see, right, NQ or ES or whatever index you're trading, it's going to close and it's going to reopen for futures at least, right? That 1 hour of the day where we close at 5 and we reopen at 6, right? That's, 5 Eastern, 5 and then reopen at 6, right? So you're going to see that every day on NQ. What we have is you typically will have some kind of gap where it's just a volume imbalance. It's just where price is basically starting out for the day, right? And that's just because of all of the orders, new orders, old orders getting filled. There's a ton to it, but you're just going to see some kind of gap in price, and it's called a volume imbalance. These volume imbalances can act as key touch points because we do have a lot of liquidity resting at those levels because that's where price opened, right, on the day. So when we see something like this, I always like to see those gaps get filled at some point during the day, right? So sometimes what we're going to see is during Asia, we're going to see us gap. We're going to see us move in one direction, and then we're going to see a reversal. So what we did today was we had a little bit of a gap down. We came down. We swept. Let's see if we swept any internal sell side. Doesn't look like there was too much sell side that we swept. Yeah, not really too much sell side down there, but we make a move in one direction, and then we see a reversal that fills that new day opening gap like that, right? And then we see that continuation in the opposite direction here. So typically what I like to see is it usually will look something like this, where let's just say this never happened, right? We started out, we gapped up, and we are moving like this. Typically what we see is a move up, 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 and then going into around 9 o'clock Eastern, we start to see a reversal that comes back down and tries to fill that new day opening gap and grab all of that liquidity. Doesn't always happen, and sometimes it doesn't happen until London, sometimes it doesn't happen until New York, but it's a very key idea that I like to focus on, because many days we do see us come back for that level. We do see that there's a lot of liquidity there. We do see that there's a lot of orders, right, which is liquidity that we want to come back for. So it's something that we can base certain trades off of. It's not always going to be the case, because like right now we already filled that level, so we don't necessarily need to come back for it, because we already grabbed that liquidity that was resting right there. We already ran through that level, so we don't have to come back for it. And if we keep holding this bullish trend, I don't see a reason that we would need to come back for it right now until we come up and trade into that daily order block, right? But we also have our new week opening gap, where I have this indicator, and this is what I keep up, and it's just this Lux Algo ICT INWOG INDOG. And you can pull up INWOG right here, and you can look for our new week opening gap. So new week opening gap was up here, and we can even pull up that daily time frame. And just look, it's that gap in the price from where price closed on Friday and then reopened on Sunday night technically, right? So that is that gap in price that we have now filled. Okay, so we ran away from it, but today we filled that whole new day opening gap. So there's no reason that we would need to come back and fill that, because it's already been filled, right? The only reason I could see price coming back was because of that bearish order block and that 4-hour bearish for value gap. So I hope that makes sense, Jack. If not, let me know if you have any more questions about that. But definitely something to keep in mind. Perfect. All right, so now what we're going to do is we're going to do the same thing on ES. We're going to do our analysis looking over ES here. All right, so we're going to go to ESH 2025, and we're going to pull up the weekly time frame first. All right, and we're just going to be able to spot some differences on and some similarities on NQ and ES and what we're looking for here. So on the weekly time frame, the first difference that I notice is that we don't have that weekly fair value gap down here. We had a weekly bullish fair value gap up here, and what happened is we ran right through it. Okay, not respecting that level, ran right through it. So showing a lot of bearish sentiment here on the weekly time frame. What I do notice down here is that we still have that swing low. We still have that swing low. And one thing as well, and I think we've talked about this already, but remember how NQ actually came down and swept that low from this week in December from the 16th? Notice how ES does not sweep that low when it came down. So we had that bullish SMT there. Just another reason when I see weekly bullish SMT is why I kind of like those longs as well. That was just another confluence for me for having some bullish bias going into this week, right? But now that's kind of out the window for right now. So anyways, just I thought I would point that out. But yeah, so we have that same weekly swing low right there. And everything else looks pretty much the same here, except for obviously that weekly for value gap. But this just gives a little bit more conviction. Now, if we do want to sell off, seeing that we inverse that weekly busy there, right? I mean, obviously that happened a while ago, but just a little bit of conviction in seeing this bearish move. So let's go down to the daily time frame here. And very similar, right? Where we traded into this daily SIBI, daily bearish for value gap. Boom, right there. Let's just pull up daily SIBI. And then if we pull out our fib, we can see that we traded, boom, right into that golden zone again and respected the SIBI and actually closed below it, never even closed inside of it. And we started to drop, right? So same thing here on ES. And then we can also notice bearish order block, right? Daily bearish order block here. Boom. Minus OB. Right? So bearish order block right there. Same thing. We got a strong close below there on the daily time frame. Reacted off that daily fair value gap. All right, similar things here. Let's go down to the 4-hour. What's another similarity that we see? 4-hour bearish fair value gap here. Boom. The difference is the 4-hour here is above the order block, right? So just a little bit of a difference there. But we definitely want to point that out. I actually still have the new week opening gap pulled up, so let me pull up new day opening gap. New day opening gap down here. So, okay, same thing, inversion of that 4-hour bullish for value gap, bearish for value gap there on the 4-hour as well, and bearish, daily order block there. And here is another similarity. We have a bullish breaker block on the 4-hour, low, high, lower, low, displacement of the highs. So this candle, this big candle here, is actually the breaker block, and we haven't closed below. Now the difference is, we closed below the 50%. Notice how we closed below the 50% level right there? Boom. Equilibrium has already been mitigated there, where it has not been mitigated on NQ. So right now it almost seems like ES is telling us a little bit more of the story, telling us that it wants to move lower here, right? It's getting that strong continuation down, closing below equilibrium of the breaker. Looks like it wants some sell-side liquidity in the near future. Okay, so same swing low down there. Let's go down to the 1-hour time frame, and let's see what we have on the 1-hour. Okay, so looking over to the left of our charts, we still have all of those relative equal lows here. Same thing as NQ there. So we got a bunch of external liquidity here. And then we still have that external liquidity level here. Boom. So we're looking at 5.9, 11, 2.5 there. Okay, all that external sell side. That's all of our external sell side liquidity, except for this same swing low right here. Boom. We want to chart that out as well. Okay, so we got that external low, swing low on the hourly, and now we are trading into this 1-hour bearish for value gap. So this is where we see a little bit of a difference here on NQ and ES, right? If we go back to NQ, didn't we see NQ close above that hourly fair value gap? Let's go back and check it out real quick. I know I'm going back and forth a little bit, but we did, right? We saw inversion of that hourly fair value gap compared to ES, which is actually trading inside of that fair value gap still. Boom, right here. Okay, so what does that tell me? Well, it tells me a few things. So when I see NQ inverse a bearish for value gap like that, that gives me some, I would expect some continuation to the longs, expect some continuation of buy side liquidity. And then when I look at ES and I see this happening, okay, well now I'm saying, well, this is a little bit of a divergence in price, right? We're looking a little bit different. So what market is really leading the way here? From what I've been seeing, it really feels like ES has been kind of in control. So if I see even NQ inversing at 1 hour, but ES is respecting that 1 hour, and we start to see a strong drop or a strong sell-off, well, I'm going to start trusting ES a little bit more, that it's leading the way to start to see price come back down, right? So seeing that reaction off that hourly Sibby, even though NQ inversed, I'm really looking at ES right now as that controlling the market here, kind of leading the way. So I would expect price to try to start moving down a little bit off of this hourly Sibby here on ES. Okay, so just going back up here again, we have that hourly bearish for value gap, bearish unicorn model there, same thing as in Q. Talked about that same exact swing low, and then we have this 1 hour busy right here. Key level, because we also have an hourly bullish order block down here. So this is when we're going to be trading back into support, and we're going to want to see if price is trying to fight through this support or not, and that's when we can go back to NQ again. I know I'm doing a lot of this right now, but it's important, right? But we go back to NQ, and notice there's no 1 hour bullish for value gap, right? So there's nothing that NQ really needs to fight through right now. Yeah, we have an inverse for value gap here, but man, there's no bullish for value gap on NQ. So NQ is showing a lot of bearish sentiment here on the hourly time frame, even after inversing this 1 hour. Because what do we see on ES? We see ES dropping from a fair value gap. So now what's the next thing we need to focus on? Well, if we're trading NQ and we see ES trade into this hourly bullish for value gap right here, right? Let's just say we see ES trade into this fair value gap, and we see a super strong reaction off that fair value gap. Again, it goes back to the idea of that divergence and that difference in price between NQ and ES. Okay, well, if ES is reacting strongly off an hourly busy and ES looks like it's leading the way, well, that's when we're going to start looking for that reversal on NQ as well. Even if we might not see that exact level like the 1 hour busy on NQ, this is why we pay close attention to ES, because it can tell us a lot of the story. So if ES trades back into this hourly busy and we see a very strong bounce off that level and it starts to move up again, okay, we're looking for NQ to do the same. But if ES runs right through that hourly busy inverses it. Now we're looking for NQ to really start selling off and come down for that sell side liquidity down here, right? And to come back for that new day opening gap level. Okay, let's look at the 15-minute. And remember, that 15-minute swing low is what I was talking about over on NQ. So we do want to look at this swing low. Boom, right here. And if we see ES get a strong close below that on the 15-minute time frame, and we're running through the hourly busy, now we can pretty much confirm that the reversal is there and that we're trying to move lower and come down for buy side liquidity all the way down here on the 15-minute, and then all the way down for that hourly buy side, or sell side liquidity as well. Right, so that's kind of what I'm seeing here. But just leading into tomorrow, again, let's just go back to NQ. Just recap a little bit of what I was talking about. We are looking bearish, right? We are looking bearish. I know there's a bunch of lines and stuff all over the charts, but we look bearish. And the furthest I would want to see us, or at least the first touch point I would want to see us reach, if we were going to be bullish tonight at all, let's say Asia or London gives us bullish price action, I'd want to see us trade into that bearish order block, into that bearish fair value gap on the 4-hour, and I'd want to see us get a strong reaction off that level. Either way, I'm going into tomorrow with a bearish bias, which could obviously change overnight if we see something happen that we didn't expect overnight, right? Things can change. Things can change. Let's say that NQ during London session pumps for 100 points or 50 points or whatever. Let's just say a big move, or more than that, and we see a strong bullish sentiment in the market, well then, okay, that means my analysis tonight is going to go out the window because we've seen something different. Maybe news affected it in a completely different way. And that's when we just adjust our plan, we adjust our idea. But that is my analysis going into tomorrow, expecting bearish price action. We saw a bullish day on Monday. We see the reversal with a strong displacement on the daily time frame today. Usually when I see something like that happen, I usually see a Wednesday continuation of that move, right? So if it's bearish, so I would expect a bearish continuation, and I want to see us go down for weekly sell side liquidity. But just to be a little more specific for tomorrow, right? Where are our main targets tomorrow? Our main target would be previous day low right here, which is something that I'm going to chart out right now, right? Previous day low. That would be my first target right there. For the shorts, right? And then after that, we start looking at our other sell side liquidity, external sell side, like these equal lows on the 4-hour, right? So those would be kind of my two main targets for the shorts tomorrow, would be previous day low and those equal lows at 21,207.50. That's where I would want to see price get to tomorrow. That's just my expectation. And yeah, guys, that's what I got for you. Do you guys have any questions, any comments about tomorrow, about our charting session? How are we feeling? We feeling good? Feel free to send a message in the chat, however you guys are feeling, or anything you guys got for me. Sweet. Zertix is chilling. We'd love to see it. Yes, sir. Me too, man. I'm ready for tomorrow as well. I'm ready for tomorrow. Excited for tomorrow. Hopefully good PA tomorrow. Yeah, I mean, we'll see, right? We have to look at the history. We have to see that recently we haven't had amazing price action. It's been pretty tough because of our volatility, because we have a lot of red folder news. It's been tough. So that's just something we're going to identify tomorrow, right? If I hop on the charts and I identify that our price action is absolutely insane and not worth trading, then we're going to spend tomorrow just doing education and not trading, right? Just tape reading, going over concepts. And we're gonna be smart about it. But if our price action is worth trading, if we see some pretty good moves in the market, we're able to identify price action pretty good, it's moving, it's respecting our levels, then we will look to execute a trade. And that's always what we hope for as traders, is to see good price action. But again, sometimes it's going to be all over the place, and sometimes we're going to have to adjust our plan a little bit and see if it's really worth putting the risk in the market. Might take a trade right now. You got this, man. You got this. RC, you're feeling good? Yeah, of course, man. Of course. My pleasure. My pleasure. Yeah, guys. Well, I hope you guys are feeling prepared for tomorrow. Hope you're feeling good, in a positive mindset. I do appreciate every single one of you. For you guys that show up, even to a charting session at nighttime. I know you guys got busy schedules. I know you guys got work. You got things going on. So just to see your passion, your dedication to the craft. It's awesome to see you guys showing up, man. It's awesome. I see it. I notice it. I notice you guys showing up to these things, man. It's and it makes a big difference. It does. So props to you guys. Got you. Got you guys. Thanks, Jack. All right, everybody. Well, you have a blessed night. Enjoy yourself. Get some good rest tonight, and let's get after it tomorrow. Let's have an amazing day tomorrow. All right. All right. God bless you. Talk to you guys in the morning. Peace out.